Hey guys, I want to talk about the daily review and challenge question for day one. What are you supposed to do? What should it look like? All right, for day one, you need to create five speed problems and then solve them. Now, recall that speed is equal to distance traveled divided by the time it took to travel that distance. So, if you wanted to create very simple speed problems, you could say, well, the distance is 2 miles and the time was 1 hour. And so the speed was 2 miles per hour because one goes in the two times. But in my challenge to you, I want you to create speed problems that have a decimal distance and a decimal time. So, for instance, let's imagine that a snail has traveled an incredible 2 and 35 hundredths, and this is supposed to be a decimal point. I apologize. It looks very odd. 2 and 35 hundredths miles, maybe the farthest any snail has ever traveled. And let's say that it took this incredible snail just 1 and 3/10 hours to do so. So this is a pretty special snail. I want to find out exactly how fast was this snail traveling. So I'm going to calculate its speed. So I'm going to put the distance. Let's make that decimal just a little easier to see. There we go. Let's divide the distance, 2 and 35 hundredths, by the amount of time it took to travel that distance, which is 1 and 3/10 hours. Now, for those of you who remember, we can't have a decimal in our divisor, so we're actually going to multiply that divisor by 10. And that means we need to move our decimal one place to the right because 10 is 1 power of 10. And to keep things equal, we're going to multiply our dividend by 10 as well, moving the decimal in the dividend one place to the right. And so now our division problem has become 23 and 5/10 divided by the whole number 13. Well, the decimal point is going to go straight up into our quotient, and then we can start dividing like normal. 13 certainly doesn't go into 2 because it's bigger than 2, but it does go into 23 one time. 1 times 20, or I'm sorry, 1 times 13 gives us 13. And we subtract that from the 23, and we have 10. And then we bring our 5 down. And now we need to figure out how many times 13 goes into 105. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know right off the top of my head, so I'm going to have to do some guessing and checking. So I'm going to guess 13 goes in 105 7 times. Let's see if that works. It's going to multiply my 7 and 3 and get 21, carry my 2. And then I'm going to add that to the product of 7 and 1, which gives me 9. And I get 91. That's sort of close, but let's see if I can get closer. So I'm going to multiply 13 by 8. And now I multiply my 8 and 3 and get 24, and I carry the 2. And I'm going to add that to the product of 8 and 1 and get 10. And lo and behold, I found the winner. 13 goes into 105 8 times. And when I multiply 8 and 13, I get 104. And when I subtract 104 from 105, I get 1. Now you can keep dividing. And you can do that by adding zeros in your dividend and keep going and doing what you were doing before. So 13 does not go into 10, unfortunately. It's too big. So we'll put a 0 in the quotient. 0 times 13 is going to give us 0. And then you're going to write another 0 in the dividend. You're just going to keep dividing. So now I'm going to see how many times 13 goes into 100. Now, luckily, I already did some work over here, and so I can tell that 8 times 13 is going to be too big, but 7 works. So I'm going to put that 7 up here. And I'm going to subtract 91 from 100 and get 9. And I have a couple options. I can continue dividing and maybe reach the end. Or if it seems like I'm just going to keep dividing forever, what I can do is I can write these approximation signs right here, or I guess I should say approximation sign. And I can be satisfied with saying, well, the speed of this incredible snail is going to be about or approximately 1 and 807 thousandths miles per hour. Now, I'm not quite sure how fast the average snail travels, but I have a feeling that this is pretty fast for a snail. I'd be interested to know if you guys um, look that up and see how fast the average snail travels. But anyway, for your daily challenge, what you are being asked to do is to simply create 5 speed problems like the one I just did here. And the catch is you need to use decimal numbers or decimal values for your distance and your time. If you have any questions or if you want me to check your work to see if you're on the right track, please send me an email, send me a text, or invite me for a hangout. Have a great night, guys.